there's some debatable players, Pete, that we got to get into. The first one I want to talk about, Breece Hall. Let's talk about Breece Hall first. And this is a big question mark. He was drafted in the top 5 picks for a lot of people, a running back that a lot of people were trying to draft, man, and had high upside for. He's played well. It's not like he hasn't played well, but he's the RB13 on the season, which is kind of a disappointment for a guy we were thinking would be the RB1 or maybe a top 4 option at the running back position, depending on who you was listening to. He's had 18, 24, and 18 in the first 3 weeks, coming off of a 3-point week against Denver. Where are you at with Breece Hall, Brad? Because I feel like people are panicking a little too much right now.
Yeah, man, people are panicking on Breece Hall. But the thing is, like, the entire Jets offense is kind of off, right? Breece Hall's not eating. Wilson's not eating. Lazard, in turn, is like their leading receiver. So I think that they're going to figure some shit out. I mean, they have to, right? They have to go back to the basics. They have to go back to what they were doing in week 1, feeding Wilson, feeding Breece. They
lost in week 1, though.
I mean, they lost in week 1. But shit, man. You got Denver putting it on you, and like, what are you gonna do? This is the whole thing with this team. It's weird and it's dysfunctional, but I think it's really good times to actually buy right now on these players. So Garrett Wilson has had a tough stretch, but focusing on Breece Hall here.
I think the main concern is like Braylon Allen's coming in there and like taking work away, getting the goal line stuff, getting receiving work, playing like 30 to 40% of the snaps at times when like we were expecting Breece Hall, not all of us, but like the community was expecting Breece Hall to be like 80% of the touches, Braylon Allen not to be a factor. And it's like Braylon Allen's playing well when he's up in there. That's why I'm not concerned about Breece Hall, but I think it's just like I don't think I ever thought he would be like the RB1. I thought there was a chance at it, but I never thought he would be like the RB1. And it's like, I think we've got to temper the expectations a little bit. He still has that potential, like on a weekly basis, though. So I just don't get the concern, like, oh my God, I'm so worried about Breece Hall. Like the first 3 weeks of the year, he literally showed you who he was. And that's a weekly RB1. So why is it now? Do we trade Breece Hall? Are we concerned about him? I just don't understand that narrative. Like, he's an elite player. What are we expecting at this point?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, like, the community was saying, I think, and this is what happens when you talk about like rhetoric, right? People want to anoint the next person to say, this guy's going to be the next RB1. This guy's going to be next potential to have the number 1 overall fantasy player. Me personally, I've always been saying he's more closer to like I've always had like Saquon over him. I've always had Bijan over him. CMC, obviously he's hurt. Always had Saquon over him. I always thought that his ceiling was going to be capped. So I think looking at him for what he is, right now he's even less than that, right? So I think that he is a buy low opportunity. Getting back to what I was talking about when I'm talking about this team as a whole, right? You got to look at what like the situation, the head coaching staff. If they don't get it right, this is their last time on the team. They're going to clean house. Yeah, Salah's gone if he doesn't get it right. So what they got to do, this whole Braylon Allen experiment, whatever you want to call it, I don't think it should be as prevalent. And I think when I say that they're going to get it right, they're going to go back to their play. Bro,
why not, bro? Like, why not? Because Braylon Allen he's been playing well. He earned the touches. It's not like they're just giving him this shit because he's a rookie. He literally earned the touches. He's played well in that role. So why wouldn't he earn more work? And Breece, I mean, what do you have last game? 10 carries for like 4 yards. Why hasn't he earned more work?
That's ugly,
bad, bro. Like, I just think they using both of them is not a bad idea. But like, to panic on Breece's value, we've already seen it. It was a bad game in the rain where he had his worst game of the year, and now everybody's like, oh shit, what do I do? Like, he was 18 points a game before that. It makes no sense.
Before last week. Yeah, before that's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. Where you value last game, I think is a dud. You got to throw it out. If you're the Breece owner, you got to throw it out. If you're not the Breece owner, you got to look to probably try and acquire Breece to keep that shit a fucking bean, man. You got to try to acquire Breece because, where he's getting his work the last 2 weeks, he only averaged 4 yards a carry one game this season. That was week 2. But it doesn't fucking matter because he's getting like before last week, he's getting, 4 catches, 7 catches, 5 catches, not targets, right? That's where his value is. You know what I'm saying? So fumbled the rock twice in 4 games, only lost 1 fumble. And that's probably where Braylon Allen's coming in. I mean, listen, Braylon Allen is a beast, though. You know, he's the youngest player. He's big. He's fast. He can catch. He probably is going to be a mainstay. But listen, moving forward, I don't think that there's much room to worry about it. But check this out. Breece Hall, right?
Yeah.
Just when we're talking about game scripts, this offense is not like a blow them out the water offense. It's more of like a ball control offense, dink and dunk type shit. They're not going to – the game script is not going to be in their favor against Minnesota next week or this upcoming week. The game script is not going to be in their favor against Buffalo the week after that. And, you know, they're going against Pittsburgh, and I think the game script is going to be like a defensive type battle. That's where you're going to see Breece Hall eat a lot. You know, they're going to try to work him in, not only running the rock, but also catching the rock. I think Breece Hall is going to have a bigger day in 2 weeks from now against Pittsburgh. But in Buffalo, I think this game could get out of hand in the third quarter.
Well, you talk about like RBs right now are eating against Buffalo, and that's one of the things I was going to mention here is the one thing saving grace-wise for Breece, if you can get him, is that so far right now, based on the rankings that we have, and obviously this shit changes throughout the year, but he's got 3 very fantasy-friendly matchups in the fantasy playoffs right now. You're going up against the Rams, the Jags, and the Buffalo Bills, which are all bottom 7 against running backs. Like, running backs are eating right now. Buffalo, surprisingly, is the best matchup right now for running backs. So, for me, I'm like, oh, shit. Like, sometimes that's what I'm looking ahead to is, like, if I'm going to trade for him, when. And you talked about the tough matchup here against Minnesota. Also, then you got Pittsburgh coming up here in a couple of weeks. And it's like, you know, there might be a really good time to trade for Breece Hall. It just might not be this week. But for now, if you have him, I still wouldn't panic. Like, that's the part that I'm at. It's just I'm not panicking on it. If Braylon Allen eats a little bit, shit, he eats a little bit. But I'm not panicking on him as like a top 5 to 10 running back, which I think at this point, that's another thing people do too before we get into the next player. That's a thing people do, P, that pisses me off. And it's like you still hold on to these early season values. You're holding on to like where you drafted them and who's ranked higher than who. When we draft players, it's not about like, I think this player, at least for me, it's not. I don't know if you feel the same way. It's not about, I think this player is going to finish number 1. I think he's going to finish number 2. I think he's going to finish number 3. Typically, I'm rating these guys, and they're in a similar tier of upside and floor, and the reason I have them ranked is because of that. I think one has maybe more higher upside. One has more consistent floor. One has a good risk of both. One is a little bit more of a floor play. Like, that's how I rank players. So I think, like one of the big comparisons I get, Bijan and Breece Hall, that's one of the bigger ones I get. Like, who would you take? It was just a different combination of like upside potential with Bijan and then floor, I think, with Breece Hall. And I prefer the ceiling that I thought was there with Bijan Robinson. Hasn't been there so far. It's okay because both of them, to me, are still RB1s. It's a win still.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I get that. But I mean, you know, I know you're not completely throwing up the pre-draft ranking. You're not completely throwing them out the water. I think things normalize, you know, after these first few weeks. And I do think that there is going to be a bounce back.
So where are you ranking Breece Hall right now? Top 5, top 10, top 12, out of your top. Where do you have him ranked the rest of the season right now?
As far as running backs? I mean, I think he's top 10, you know. But then again, I've never really had him as a lock for a top 5 running back coming out. I've always thought he was going to be more of like a top 10 running back.
I still got him in my top 5. Tell me.
In your top 5, really?
In my top 5 still. So you got Saquon over him?
Of course.
Okay. Bijan or Breece Hall?
That's close. Okay. I'm going Bijan. I'll go Bijan.
Okay, so you got 2 backs over him right now. Alvin Kamara or Breece Hall?
I'll take Alvin. Give me Alvin.
Derrick Henry or Breece Hall?
You see, that's a good one. I'm higher on Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry's floor is 12 points any given week. He's in the touchdown.
Breece's floor was 18. We were just talking about it outside of last week. Had a bad game.
Yeah, but it's weird what they're doing. With as a team. What are they doing? What's their identity? Can you tell me confidently what their identity is as a team?
Right now they're trying to. I can't. But right now they're trying to move the football through the ground game. They're using
They're using two backs to do that though.
They're using Garrett Wilson. Yeah, but they're using these guys in space to try to get the ball downfield. I don't think they're looking for a whole lot of hero shots. This is a dink and dunk type of offense, and they're hoping to get the big play through their running backs. That's essentially what they're doing right now.
No, I don't know. I think
so we got hold on. So right now you got Saquon, you got Bijan, you got Kamara and Derrick Henry, right? So those four over.
I think Derrick Henry's close. We'll put him on the back burner.
Okay, Kyron.
I got Kyron over him.
Joe Mixon.
No.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
I'll take Gibbs over him.
Jonathan Taylor.
Not ready to say that. No.
Achane.
No, Achane. No.
Josh Jacobs.
No.
Jordan Mason.
Look, I don't know if CMC is going to come back, but while
Breece Hall,
bruh, you got to listen. I don't look.
Right
chastise me. But listen, okay, let me ask you something. If CMC doesn't come back, who you taking the rest of the season?
Breece Hall.
Why?
No question.
Why is that no question? Why?
We just talked about an 18-point floor usage in the passing game, the run game. We haven't seen a big play from Breece Hall all season long.
You can't say like
50 yards a game right now rushing.
Nah, but you can't
see a 100-yard game from him.
You haven't seen a 100-yard game from who?
Breece Hall.
Yeah, but you've seen nothing but 100-yard games from fucking Jordan Mason.
I'm still taking Breece Hall for the floor, just the floor of it right now for him. And
you got
like 6 running backs. I don't think you got more than that because there's no other running backs.
So I said okay. So I said okay. So I got Bijan, I got Saquon, Kyron, Kamara, Gibbs,
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry and him are right there. And give me Derrick Henry over him. So that's 6 running backs that I
got him like RB7 right now. That's wild.
Yeah. I said top 10. Yeah,
that's wild. But
that's wild to you. So okay, of those running backs, who are you taking over them? Like
I'm taking Breece over all of them except for Saquon and Bijan. That's it.
You're taking him over Kamara?
Yeah, I'm taking Breece over Kamara.
Are you? So you're taking Bijan over Kamara too?
Yeah. I'm not. I don't go off past stats. I go off of what I think future production. While I think Kamara is still there, I just also see like when Taysom Hill's healthy, they use his ass in the red zone sometimes. Like, or if that Saints offense sputters, sometimes like they had a really hot start to the year with 2 like blowout wins. You feel me? So I'm kind of dialed. I think the potential for a Bijan, the potential for a Breece Hall is higher than what it is for Alvin Kamara, especially if the Saints do go on a losing path like they did last year, and we see Kendra Miller come in towards the end of the year. That's where I got it.
Interesting. Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it because although Taysom Hill may get that work on the goal, his 34-year-old fucking quarterback ass may get that work on the goal line. He's a hard runner. You gotta give it to him. Yeah, he did. Kamara's value is not in his touchdowns. Kamara's value is primarily catching a rock and working the 20s. If he gets a touchdown, then that's a 25-plus game, a 25-point game.
How can you say that for him, but not Breece Hall? The same thing, and Breece is younger.
I don't give a shit if Breece is younger. It goes back to their identity, bruh. It goes back to the team's identity. Nobody knows what their identity. And this is part of the reason why I may be biased. Just keeping the shit G. I always think that, and you can see it a little bit in this game. I think that Aaron Rodgers himself, he's always struggled to adapt to a system. He's always like, no, I'm the system, right? In Green Bay, Matt LaFleur, he never wanted to adapt to all that pre-snap motion. He never wanted to fully adapt to that offense because that's not what he does. He's like, fuck all this motion shit. Let me go ahead and run my offense. They got rid of him, and now their team's excelling. It's funny because the same offense is here in the Jets. So I think that there's a conflict, and there was that weird, awkward thing where the coach, after the win, went to give him a hug. Aaron Rodgers pushed him off. Like, that shit is weird to me. And it always goes deeper. They explained
that, though. They was cool. They was talking about,
they explained that.
He was like, that's a 14-point, 2-score lead. That's what he said. He said 2-score lead. Like, I got you a 2-score lead. That's all.
But then there was just also things like, coach is not a big hugger. Okay, coach is not a big hugger, but you were the one to push him off. So what the fuck are you talking about? So it's just weird to me because that entire dynamic is just weird, right? Because they're sharing a workload. It's like a community in that backfield now. The number one wide receiver's getting treated like he's not a number one wide receiver. Granted, he's been facing good corners, but still, you got to make that shit work, bro. You got to make that shit
We're
work.
gonna have to agree to disagree on Breece Hall, man. A lot of people are probably in this same dilemma right now. Me personally, I'm holding Breece Hall for better days, not selling him anything anywhere. So if you got Derrick Henry for Breece Hall in your inbox right now, you're accepting that?
I don't know, man. I'm really high on Derrick Henry, bro. I like Derrick.
That's crazy.
Listen, I'm saying I don't know because of this. I'm high on Derrick Henry. Breece Hall's ceiling is what it is, and we may look at this a little bit differently because you're looking at what can be, and you're looking at potential, and I'm looking at what's this guy's floor, and is it worth it? Right? You got to factor that in, and I'm not just saying, if this guy's floor is higher, I don't give a fuck about his potential, because Derrick Henry has potential too. Every game, Derrick Henry could go for 100 yards and a touchdown. And if they sprinkle him in the catch, if he gets 2 touchdowns, which is not far-fetched, that's good, right? But at some point, it's gonna nick you in the ass if you're like, it's gonna nick you in the ass if you're like, oh, this guy has potential to be RB1. When he has shown in the past, but in this system, it makes it cloudy to actually achieve that type shit. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you, but I don't agree with you, bro. Just keeping it G. Like I think that there's different versions of upside.
And just to be clear, I wouldn't do that deal straight. You know what I mean? It's not because I think one player is better than the other. If I'm giving Breece Hall, I'm gonna ask for Derrick Henry.
Market value. Market value is different than your perceived value. Always.
Exactly.